Good morning, everyone. My name is Godfrey, and I'll be conducting today's training on the ZKBiosecurity, which is a continuation of our Tuesday session of the ZKBiosecurity software. So the part 2 will have the elevator module, and then we'll touch base again on the visitor module, and then the patrol module, and then I'll go into detail on our system tab just to go through and explain everything to expect onto the software, and then to make it easier for you to administer the software. Okay, now we can go to the software itself. Okay, this is the ZKBiosecurity software. Our default login details is admin in small letters. Okay, so I'll start by recapping our personnel function, since this is the most important part of the ZKBiosecurity, because the personnel that you're going to be using under the elevator modules, in fact, almost all the modules in biosecurity, you are all added under your personnel module here. So I have already added 3 personnel. In order for you to add a new personnel here, you first need to create a department, and then you can create a new department by clicking the new button here, and then each department needs to have its department number, and the number cannot be repetitive, so you need to create a unique number. And then the department needs to have a name, and then you need to allocate if the department is following any other department. Like if you need a sub-department, then you can throw it under the finance department just to make it a sub-department. And you can click on OK. So that's how you create a department. Once you have created your department, you can export your department list. You can also import it. Like for instance, if you need the client to populate the departments themselves, then you can actually export the Excel spreadsheet and then send it to the client. The client can populate it for you, and then you just import. Okay, so once you've created your department, now you can go back and add your personnel. So I'm just recapping on the personnel because this is one of the crucial parts of the software. And then once you are done with the personnel departments adding, then you can add your personnel. And then you need to allocate the personnel ID, and then you allocate them to their respective department. Okay, and then you allocate your personnel into a specific department, and then you give the personnel a name. And then you allocate the gender. You can populate the information that's required, and then the password is the password that they have to use should you need them to access the doors using the password. And then another important part is the card number. So here you can use the ZKCR20E to enroll your cards, your RFID cards in this case. The RFID cards. And then for your fingerprint registration, you require the ZK4500, so you can just click on register fingerprint, and then you select the finger that you need to register there. Okay, and then another important part is an access level. So each user needs to be added under a respective access level. And then another important part of the software is the super user function. Remember, this function, you don't have to give it to just anyone into the building, because there are no restrictions that can prohibit the super user. And then the device operation mode. In case of a standalone device, if you gave a user an administrator privilege, it means that administrator is the only one who will gain access into the menu of the device. So you need to be careful on who you give these privileges to. Okay, once the personnel profile is created, you can click on OK, and then the user will appear here. So this was just a recap on our previous session. And then now I'm going to skip over to the elevator module. Okay, this is our elevator module. And then we have an EC10. An EC10 is our elevator controller, and then it has 10 floors. We also have an expansion port, which is an EX16, and then an expansion port has up to 16 floors, and then you can add up to 3 expansion ports into your elevator controller, which gives you a maximum of 58 floors. So you can actually control 58 floors with your elevator controller. So I'm going to show you how to add the device under your elevator module. I'm going to delete the device that I have already here. And then for you to add a device, unlike on the access control module, you don't have to search, you add it manually. You can search either, or you add it manually. And you can search. It picks up an EC10, and then it allows you to modify the IP address of the device. Then you can just click on add, and then remember the IP address of the device needs to be in the same range as your PC's IP, and then not forgetting your firewall exception of the software, and then your antivirus, since it blocks the communication between the software and the device. And then here the number of expansion ports. If you have connected an expansion port, then you need to select how many expansion ports you have added, and then it can take a maximum of 3 expansion ports. And then you need to allocate an area. Should you need to clear the data that's already in the elevator control, you can select here and then clear the data. Then once that is done, then you can click on OK. Then the operation was successful, then you need to click on OK. You click on OK. Then you close. Now our device is added. And then should you need to modify anything after adding, this is where you can do it. You can modify your IP address here, modify your fingerprint threshold identification, and all the additional settings that you might need to change. You can do them from the More tab there. And then we can continue to the reader. And then the reader that's here, it's your slave reader, since the slave reader that you're going to use to open the elevator. So it's used for your fingerprint identification. Here is just defining the reader. You can just give it a name, change the name of the reader, and then you can also change the verification mode. If you need to use only cards, only password, or card or password, and then or you can use any verification mode that you need there. And then you can copy the above settings to all the additional devices that you might have added there. Then you can click on OK. And then now we have floors. So under the floors, remember I said the EC10 by default allocates 10 floors. So automatically after adding the device, you'll have 10 floors. If you have expansion port which has 16 additional, then you'll have a maximum of 26 floors. If you have added 3 expansion ports, then you'll see 58 floors. Okay, so here from here you can just rename your floors here. Then you can just say this is the floor 1, and then there's an active time zone, so you need to allocate the time zone to each floor, and then you can click on OK. So you can rename all the floors. You can rename all the floors, and then should you need to remotely open and then remotely lock the elevator, you can do it from the software directly. And then we can move over to our auxiliary inputs. On the auxiliary input on the EC10 is the same. It works the same way as the auxiliary input on our access control. So this is where you connect your breakers unit. You can connect either a breakers unit or a siren button onto your auxiliaries. So the elevator controller also has the auxiliary input. So you can use your auxiliary input to connect it directly on the elevator control. Then we can move over to the event types. And then all the event types that are listed below, those are the events that can occur on the software. And then as you can see, the green ones, these are normal events. And then we have the exception events, the orange ones. And then we have the alarm, which is the red. Then we can go to device monitoring. Under device monitoring, this tab allows you to see when your device is online and offline, and then if it has some pending tasks that it needs to complete, you'll see the command list. If it's greater than 0, it means there are commands that are currently being processed by the device. And then if the text changes to red, then it means the device is offline. So this is what you can check. This is very important for you to check in monitoring your device. And then under real-time monitoring, this you see the real-time transactions. If someone verifies on the controller, it will pop up automatically there under real-time monitoring. Now we can move over to access, elevator, and then we have time zones. So under your time zone tab, it allows you to create a time zone where you allow your users as to from what time they can access the elevator, and then from what time they cannot access the elevator. So you can just click on new to add a new time zone. So if you need your users to only gain access between 6 in the morning and 6 in the afternoon, then that's how you do it. You set it up there, then you can copy all the settings to other weekdays. And then should you need it also on Saturday and Sunday, then you can just manually enter them there. And then as for your holidays as well, you can just add your time zone for your holidays. Then you need to give your time zone a name. Let's say 1 hours. And then you click on OK. Now your time zone is successfully created. Then now we can move over to holiday. Then under holidays, this tab allows you to add all the holidays that you have in your country, the public holidays that are observed by everyone, and then you can have internal holidays as well. So you click on new, and then you give it a holiday name. Then let's say it's the Human Rights Day. And then we have 3 holiday types, and then each holiday type can take up to 32 holidays. So the holiday types are meant for basically sorting your holidays. So if you have recurring holidays and non-recurring, and then you have your internal holidays as a company, then you can sort them, like for your recurring, you can sort them under holiday type 1, and then your non-recurring under holiday type 2, and then your internal holidays under holiday type 3. And then each holiday type can take up to 32 holidays. Then you select your holiday type, and then you select the start day of the holiday. And you can just select the start day and the end day, and the end day of the holiday rather. And then here you can specify if the holiday is recurring or not recurring. And then recurring means if the holiday is on the same day every year, then it is recurring. And then if the date changes from year to year, then it is not recurring. Then you can click on yes, then you click on OK. So your holiday is successfully saved there. Now we're going to move over to the elevator levels. And then we have our elevator levels. So the elevator levels are mainly your access levels in access control. So you need to add a floor to each elevator level. Then you can click on add, and then you select each floor, then you add a floor. So you can choose to have more than one floor on each elevator level, or you can have one floor. It's entirely up to you. So after adding your floors, now you're gonna set up your access via the levels. So in this case, you add your personnel onto their respective access levels. Then you can click on if you need who do you need to have access onto your first floor, and then you can add all those personnel under the first floor, and then on the second floor you can add the personnel that you require on the second floor, and so on and so on. And then the access by personnel is mainly the same thing as the access by level, but it's just twisted around. So in this case, you are adding the levels onto the personnel, and then here you are adding the personnel onto the levels. And then for your group departments, like adding an access level for a specific department, let's say finance department is at floor 1, then you can add floor 1 for finance department. And then for the sales departments on floor 2, then you can give the sales department floor 2. And then remember another important thing, the EC10 does not override the elevator itself. It's just a limits access to certain floors. Like if you have restrictions on which floor, on your floors, then the EC10 is the perfect solution for you, because it's going to allow you to have those restrictions into the floor. So if the user is not added to have access to floor 10, that user will not gain access to floor 10. So they'll only get access to the floors that they are given access to. Okay, and then now we can move over to your global linkage. And then under our global linkages, the linkage is still the same as on our access control module. You create a module, a linkage. If you have added your breakers unit, then you can create a linkage here. Then the linkage, you need to give it a name, linkage 1, and then the linkage to be activated, it requires a condition or a trigger point. What will trigger the linkage there? For instance, if you are using your auxiliary inputs there, then it's if your auxiliary input is shorted, then that will be your trigger condition, in this case for your brake gas unit. And then you can add your input point. Your input point is your device, which is an EC10 in this case, and you click on OK. And then now you need to add your output. And then your output, you can move all the floors. Then you click on OK. And then now the action type. What must be the action that the controller takes when the auxiliary input is shorted? Then you can choose on normally open. If it's a breakers unit, you need your elevator to open so that no one can be stuck in the building. So you can just set it up on the normal open. And then you can also link your video footages onto your breakers so that you can see a video pop up, and the software can also record a video that's 30 seconds long, and then you can increase the seconds there, and then it can also capture your snapshot. And then remember, for this function to work, you need to have added your IP cameras onto the software. And then we have the active time, and then the active time is basically a time zone that you need your linkage to be active on. So in this case, a fire alarm needs to be activated for 24 hours. And then we have an email. On the email, once a linkage is shorted, then the software automatically sends out an email to the registered email. And then we do have an SMS function for this, but it requires the software customization. So you need to send in an application if you need the SMS function here. And then we have the linkage voice prompts. This allows you to upload the voice prompts or a different siren sound that you can add here for your linkages. And then once you are done with the setup, your linkage is set up, then you can click on OK. And then your linkage will be saved. Then now we can move over to our parameters. And then under our parameters, we have the device module there, which the device software communication is obviously network. And then we have the types of getting transactions. So we have a periodic, and then you can set the time for obtaining your transactions. So if it's periodic, then you can set up on after how many hours can the software download the new transactions on the device. And then if you set the time for obtaining a transaction, then you need to specify at what time will the software download new transactions. And then the real-time monitoring there, this is the size of the picture that appears when you activate or under real-time monitoring there. So this is the size of the picture that will pop up there under real-time monitoring, and the picture being the profile picture of the user who's checking in. And then we can move over to reports. Then we have types of reports there, which is all transactions. And then under all transactions, you can see all the transactions that have happened on the EC10. And then you can export your reports to either Excel, CSV, or PDF. And then if you need a specific report for a specific person, you can use the personal ID. And then if you have more than one device, then you can select the device which you need the reports for. And then you have your exception events. And then here are all your exceptions. Like as you can see there, the exception description there, it shows you that the fingerprint is disabled there. So this is one of our exceptions that you have seen on the events that may occur onto the software. So these are all the exceptions. You can also export. You can clear all the data, and then you can select the start date and the end date. Also, if you need a specific person's report. And then here under your access by floor, access rights by floor. So this will show you who has access to which floor. As you can see there, under floor 1, everyone has access to floor 1. Then on floor 2, only Clover can access floor 2. So going forward, you can see. And then the right by personnel, it's basically the same as this one, just vice versa. So this is it under our elevator module. I can just quickly show you a real-time monitoring of the software. So as you can see there, once you scan your fingerprint there, it shows the event point, which floor, and then the personal ID, also the name, and on which reader, and also the verification module there. So that's our real-time monitoring. So you can see all the transactions in real time. Okay, we are done with the elevator module. Now we have to move over to our visitor module. Okay, so this is our visitor module, and then this module you use it for inviting your visitors who obviously are not registered into the system. And then for this module, we also have a mobile app, so you can also use a mobile application to run this module. And then we can start with the reservation. So for you to have to register a visitor, you need to create a reservation first. So by creating a reservation, you click on New, and then you need to enter the personal ID of the host. Then for you to enter the personal ID of the host, and you can select the host is code 3, and then it automatically populates there, and then you use the certificate type is basically the identification of the visitor. Is the visitor gonna use an ID or a passport or a driver's license for his identification? And then you give out a certificate number, and then you specify a name of that visitor, the last name, and then you populate the mobile number, and then from which company is the visitor from, and then here you have your visit reasons. So you can add additional visit reasons, and then you can just select the reason, and then the visited date, and then which is the date the visitor will come in. Then once you have populated all this information, you can click on OK, and then in this way the reservation is created. Then when the visitor arrives at reception, the receptionist needs to register an entry of the visit, which in this case the receptionist will also have the receptionist will have to issue the card. The receptionist will have to issue a card to the visitor. Then you can add the receptionist will have to issue out a card for the user. Then just select and then ZKTeco, this is present, which is an interview ID, certificate number. And then by entering the certificate number there, it automatically populates the information of the user, and then you can specify the gender there, and then you can populate all the other information, and then the receptionist needs to specify if the user is carrying any goods, and then they can issue a card number there. And then remember, the visitors are not allowed to have fingerprints, so hence we have the card number, and then if you're using the mobile application, it allocates a password or a key pass for the visitor. And then we have the visitor, which these are the permissions. we have the visitor level, and then basically these are the access levels that you have on your software already, and then the start time of the visitor, and then of the visit rather, and then the end time. So if the meeting will take more than 1 day, you can select that the card will be valid for 2 days. And then if you have your camera, a USB camera, you can capture a photo of the user, and then you can also scan the identity of the user there if you have the correct equipment to make this registration. And then once the reservation is created, the user will click on OK, and then it shows that it's succeeded, and then it shows all the details that you have entered there. Okay, so your visitor is created, and then issue the card, then you click on visit. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, our network is a bit slow, so I'm just gonna recap again. In terms of your visitor registration there. Okay, so in terms of your user reservation, your visitor registration, there you need to create a reservation, and then the reservation is created by the host. So if you're going to be hosting a visitor, or you're expecting you've created a meeting with a user, then you need to create a reservation first. And then in this case, let's say the host is ZK3. And then you allocate a certificate number. And then the certificate, you have different types of certificates there, which you have your passport, your driver's license, and your ID, which you can add additional should you wish. And then you give name there, and the last name, the mobile number, and then the additional information, and then you specify the reason for the visit. And then you can select the start day of the meeting, and then you can click on OK. So this way a reservation is created. Now when the user arrives at the reception, they need to enter a registration for that visitor. The receptionist will have to click on the entry registration and specify who the host is, and then the reason for the meeting, for the visit rather, and then the ID. Once you key in the ID, it pops up all the information from the reservation that you have created, and then you can select the gender there, then populate the additional information, the nationality of course, and then the receptionist will have to see if the user is carrying any goods with them. And then the receptionist can issue the card number, and then remember in this case the visitor is not allowed to use fingerprints, so they can only be issued cards. So the receptionist will have to scan the card number there to issue the visitor a card, and then give the user and add the user into an access level. And then set up a start date of the visit and the end date of the visit. And then if you have a USB camera here, you can capture a snapshot of the visitor, and then you can also scan the certificate photo, which in this case will be the ID of the visitor. And then once that is done, you can click on OK. The visitor is created. And then when you click on visitor, it will show all the visitors that are expected, and the ones that have already visited them. As you can see, there's the visitor of a past date. Now we're gonna move over to our basic management, and then we have our parameters here. And then under the parameters, so these are the additional settings that you can grant, or additional permissions that you can grant to a visitor. So if you need to use a password, you can use a password. And then if you need to issue them cards, you can issue them cards. So these are all the additional information that you might give to a visitor. And then if you need an automatic sign out, you can set it up from here. And then automatic sign out means if the user checks out at a specific door, then the system will regard the user as he have checked out of the building. Okay, and then we have device debugging. So under your device debugging, it shows you all the devices that you have added. Should you have added the printer there, it will show you the printer, then the scanners, and then your camera. So it shows you all the additional documentation, additional devices that you have added onto the software. And then we have the print settings. So these are your printer settings there, onto which printer to use, and then this is the paper type, all the additional information that you need to set up on your printers there. And then we have the visitors level. On the visitor level, these are basically the access levels. So these can also be generated from your access control part. So if you have created access levels from the access control, they can easily be imported onto your visitor module. So you can just select an access level there, then you click on OK. So that access level is already added onto your visitor module, and then you can add a visitor onto that access level. And then we have an entry place. An entry place is basically a PC or a server where the user registration can be done. So this function requires, if you need to have more than one PC registering your visitor, this function requires a license. So by default, it only gives you one PC. So if you need an additional PC, then the PC IP address is required there. So for you to add an additional server, you need to specify where the server is. Then you can say security proof, and then you give the IP address of the device or of the PC that's at the security port, and then test the connection. And the device, the PC needs to be on the same network as your server PC. And then if you have an additional camera, maybe an IP camera, USB camera, you can specify there. And then you allocate it to a specific area, and then you can click on OK. Then you'll have an extra entry place there. And then for your visit reasons, under your visit reasons, so these are more reasons that you can add here for your visitors. You can just click there, and then you specify that your visitors reasons there, And then when you're adding your user, you can select any reason that's in line with the visitor that's currently there. So that's how you create your additional reasons for the visitor. And then now we move over to the reports tab. And then the types of reports, these are the types of reports we have, and then we have the last visited location. Under the last visited location, it should show. Okay, and then we have the history records there. So under the history records, it shows the number of visitors who have already visited. Then you can also export to Excel, CSV, and PDF. And then you can also view the charts. So here it shows you at which entry point it was used to register the users. And then it shows the visitor volume there and the top respondent. Yeah, so this is it in terms of our visitor module. Now we're gonna move over to our patrol module. Okay, so this is our patrol module that is integrated into our ZKBiosecurity, and then this is just the basic patrol management software, and then it uses your existing access control devices. So it uses your existing infrastructure, unlike the older patrol where you needed to buy a special software and also hardware for your guard patrol system. In this case, you're using your existing access control system. So these are the features that to expect onto your patrol. And then you have your basic management. Under basic management, you have your device and your checkpoints. And then under your patrol management, you have your patrol plan, and then your patrol group, and you have your route. And then here you can also monitor in real time the patrol. Now we're gonna start with our basic management here. We have to add our devices first. Okay, let me just quickly delete these ones. Okay, so basically, as you can see, the devices that we have here are the devices that we already have onto our access control module. Let's just quickly open our access control. Then you see the devices that we have here are exactly the same as the devices. Okay, so these are our devices that we have under our access control module. You can see it's reception and support, and then when you go back to your patrol, you can see reception and support. So when you click on new, it will show you all the devices that are already added onto your access control module. You just move them over to the selected site, and then you click on OK, and the devices will appear here. So you don't have to add them using the IP addresses. They are already added under your access control module. Once you have added your devices, then you can proceed to your checkpoints. Your checkpoints are basically the points where the guards will be checking on. So for instance, if you have a reader at reception, the reader in finance, the reader in support, so all those offices or doors that have readers on can be your checkpoints. In this case, you need to add a new checkpoint. You click on new, and then you give it a checkpoint name. It's best to give it a name that is relative to a specific door. For instance, if the reader is on the boardroom door, then you can give it a boardroom name there, and then the device module is obviously our access control device, and then on which area it's on, and then the device name. So here you select on which device, then you select your device name, and then you select where can the user tag on the in reader or on the out reader. So for simple purposes, you always need to use the out reader, which in this case is, your in reader, which in this case it would be a reader on the outside of the door, not from the inside. And then you can specify the installation position of the door, of the reader rather. And then you click on OK, your checkpoint will be created. And then now we can go to parameters. So parameters just the patron statistics, how often should the software collect the patrol data from the devices. And then we can go to patrol management. Under your patrol management, you can set up your patrol plan. Then you can click on new, and then you give it a plan name, which is plan 2, and then the start time of the plan. And then the end time. And then you can choose if the patrol plan is by date or by week or by month. So you can select if it's by date or by week or by month. Then you click on new. And then now you have your patrol plan. So basically what the patrol plan means, it means from what time until what time can your guards conduct training, conduct their patrol. And then in this case, it can also take more than 24 hours. So if it crosses a day, it crosses over to the next day. So you need to just make sure that that setting is set up there. Then you can click on OK. Now your plan is in place, and then you have a patrol group. So basically under a patrol group, you can set up a group of guards to patrol on a certain plan. So if you create a group, then you need to specify who is on a certain group. Then you can click on new to add a group, and then you give it a name, group 2. And then under patrol mode, here you need to choose whether all of the users that are on the group should actually do the patrol at the same time. So if you have chosen the all verification, it's going to require all the users that are on the same group to verify before they can move over to the next point. So if it's any person, it means only either one of them can do the patrol. Then you can set up the remarks there, and then you can click on OK. So once you have your group, then you can add there, then you can add your personnel onto the group. Now your patrol group is created. Once your group is created, then you set up your patrol route. And then you click on new to add a new route. And then you give it a name. And then the plan, we're gonna give it plan 2. And the limited time. So the limited time, it's how long the patrol should take place. Like if the guards are doing the rounds, how long must each guard take before he completes his round? So in this case, we can just okay, so you select your patrol and then you set up your limit time. This is how long each patrol should take. And then you allow time for deviation should the guards get distracted by something or they need to check something else. You can allow additional time for deviation there. and then you can select a specific person to have this root, or you can give it to a group. Then you can click on OK, and then you click next step. In this case, you have the root order. So these are your checkpoints. So if you can see there on top, it says root order. So if it's the root order you've selected order there, it means the guards will have to check in first at reception and then finish at support. The guard cannot start at support and then finish at reception. And then you can change that to disorder. So if it's total disorder, it means that the guard can check in first at any of the two, and then if it's disorder, accept the first check. So it means the guard is forced to first check on reception, then from there he can check on any checkpoint without following a sequence. And then we have a disorder except the last checkpoint. So this one means the user can start at any point but needs to finish at the last last checkpoint there. So the start does not matter and the ones in between, but the last one should be support. And then the disorder except the first and the last means the user have to check in first at reception, and in between it does not matter, but the last check should be at support. So those are the order points that we have there, and then you can choose any of them as you wish. And then you can click on complete. Okay, we have already created a route that's similar to this one, as you can see there. So hence, you can create the same route that's the same. And then once you have created that, you have your reports. And then under your reports, you have all transactions. Then under the transactions, it shows you all the transactions that were done, and then it shows the name of the patrol card and the card number there. And then you can also export your reports to either Excel, PDF, or CSV. And then you have patrol records for today, and then you have those are your records. And then you have your statistics. And then you have your personnel statistics. And then you can also export these reports to either Excel or CSV. Now we can go to route monitoring. Then we click on patrol monitoring there. We first go back. Patrol management, and then delete the route. We'll just set up a new route so that I can test the real-time monitoring for you. Number 10, 21, time is 6 minutes, certification 5, then we need a group, then which group we need? Group 1, click on OK, and then we see next step. Then move over our checkpoints, and then disorder, total disorder, and then you complete. So your route is created. Now we can go to the route monitoring. As you can see there, if it's gray, it means no patrol yet. And then if it's green, it's your normal patrol. And then if it's red, it's a patrol route error or linkage patrol. So I'm gonna run a test on this. Then we're gonna first check on the first reader.
Thank you.
It verifies, then it should turn green. As you can see there, it shows that Clover has verified on a specific door, and then it shows the time and the date there. Then you move over to the next point. And then you wait for support. As you can see there, it pops up your real-time monitoring there that Lover has now completed the patrol. So this is it on our ZK patrol module, and then your real-time monitoring there. So if you have more than one checkpoint, it will list all your checkpoints there, depending on the order or the sequence of your patrol routes, then it will show them here under your patrol monitoring. So if there's any errors or the user started at the wrong patrol checkpoint, then the point will be in red. Okay, so this concludes our patrol module. Now I'm moving over to our system module. Okay, so under our system module, we have the basic management. And then under our basic management, we have operation logs. So basically under operation logs, it shows you everything or all the changes that you're making onto the software. And then it shows the details also. As you can see that it has the operation user as you saw, the user has logged in as admin. And then the operation time and the operation IP there. And then it also shows you which module and then what was the subject or the object that was done onto the software. So this is basically keeping track of all the users or the transactions that are going through on the software. So if a user is deleted, then you can just see when and where and who deleted that transaction or that user there. Now we're going to move over to our database management. And then our database management, there we have, that's our backup file folder. That's the part where our backups are stored. So should you wish to change it, you can change it also here. And then you can back up your database immediately, or you can set up a scheduled backup. So this software, the nice thing about it, it does an automated backup. So you can select from what time, from when can it start doing the verification, I mean the backup, and then the frequency thereof. So if you need the software to do a backup after every 1 day, then you can select after every 3 days, you can select 3 days, and then after every 7 days, or on a monthly basis. So you can select the frequency of your database backup there. Then now we can move over to area settings. So basically under your area settings, these are the areas that your devices are placed in. For instance, let's say you have different buildings around the country, and then remember biosecurity is a web-based solution, so you can actually add devices from anywhere in the country. And then you can just edit this one, and then it's area number 2, and then you give it a name. Then you say this one, the area is in Pretoria. You can click on OK. So if your device is in Pretoria, then when you're adding it on the software, you need to specify the area which will be Pretoria. So you can create as many areas as you have, and then add your devices and link them to your specific areas. And then we have our system parameters. So basically system parameters is just the information of the system. It shows the information that you need on the system. And then we have the email management. So under email management, this goes hand in hand with the email linkages, email link under your linkages there. Now let me just quickly go to linkages. Linkage, no. And then we have an email option here. So if you have set up an email account, so here you set up a link, a sender's email. So the email that you set up from here is the email address that will be responsible for sending out an email to an email that will be registered here. So if I register my own email account here, so it means the email will be sent from my account to the administrator or to the guards here. And then we can move over to data cleaning. And then here you can select after how long do you need to keep your data. So you can just select maybe after every 3 months the software needs to delete the records, the old records, and then the system logs. So here is just all the filtering of the software. So you can just set it up from here. And then we have audio files. Under audio files, these are additional audio files that you can add. Like I said, if you need a different siren sound or a different alarm sound, or you have voice prompts that you need to add into the software. So under audio files, it allows you to import those audio files. And then the certificate type, these are the certificate types that you have under your visitor module. Remember, we had our ID, passport, driver's license, and others. So in this certificate type, it allows you to add more identification documents here should you wish to add. And then, as you can see there, it's used under which module, visitor and author. So you can add more certificate types. Then we move over to parameters, and then this is just the home panel on the home screen of the software. Let me just quickly show you. So this is our home screen. Right now it's on a chat panel. So this is our chat panel. As you can see, it shows different chats there, and then you can also change it to a work panel. What is the work panel? Yeah, so those are the different parameters that we have. And then now we have the authority management. So the authority management, this allows you to create users, different users who can gain access into the software. And so now you first need to create a role. And then after you create a role, then you can create a user. And then now let's quickly create a role. So this role, let's say, is a receptionist. It's a receptionist. And then in this case, you can give access to the receptionist. Let's say under your personnel, you can give them access to the personnel info, but they can only browse, they cannot edit personnel profiles, they cannot delete, they cannot export, delete. They can do the rest, but they cannot edit the user profile, and then they cannot delete as well. And then under the department, you can also give them the browse and the custom attributes. You don't have to give them those. Yeah. So once you're given a receptionist, under your personnel tab, they can only do the selected. And then under your access control, they can only browse on their device, cannot sync, and that's it. Just browse the device. And then you can give as many privileges as you need. But remember, the roles are created to limit access into the software. So you just need to be careful on which functions you are giving to a specific person. And then you can move over to elevator. Then you can also here grant a permission there. And then once you have done with your role, you can save. And then you have created your receptionist role there. Now you can create a user. And then the username that you enter here is the username that the user is going to use to log in into the software. So in this case, if I say reception, so when they log in into the software, they're going to use the reception tab. So reception will be the username to log in, and then you can allocate a password, and then you confirm the password, and then the state is enabled, super user state no, and then fingerprint registration. You can register a fingerprint there as well, and then you can populate the additional information. But the username is the username they have to use when they log into the software, and then same as the password. Then once that is done, you can click on OK. Then let's put it to the test. Go log out. And then now you say reception, then the password, then you log in. Oh, it seems like it seems like I didn't give out the privileges there. Let me just quickly log out again. Let me just quickly check on the profile that I just created. It seems like I didn't grant permission to the user, but it's there. Exactly. Okay, I did not give the kind of user a role group. Okay, I have first need to create a role group, then give it a name, reception, and then you assign the role, the receptionist. Then we click on OK, the parent, its entry guides, the group description. So once that is done, under your user there, you can allocate a role group, entry guides, reception, and then you click on OK. Transaction department, you can take them all, and then you click on OK. Rest area, OK. Then you click on OK. Now we can log out and log in as the receptionist. Now, as you can see, the access is limited to this user. You can only see only the selected few. As you can see the device, but they cannot edit or delete the device. They can see the device monitoring and real-time monitoring, but they cannot make any changes onto the software. So this is how you can limit access of the users onto your software. Then we can log in as admin. Okay, so after you are done with the user registration, and then we have your client register. And then the client register is basically, we have the ZKBiosecurity mobile app. So you can actually monitor your biosecurity on your mobile phone or using the mobile application. So you first need to register the users here. The registration code there is generated automatically by the software. As you can see, that's the registration code. The software generates it by default there. And then you're gonna use the registration code or the QPR when you are linking your biosecurity mobile application to your biosecurity app. And then we can move over to communication, and then here we have the device commands. So this also are the commands, everything that you update on the software affecting the devices, it will show you all the details there. And then if the transaction was successful or it did not complete. And then we have extended management. So the LED device, this for your LED screens. If you have an LED screen to display a specific message on your LED screen, then you can add your LED screen under this tab. You can click on new, and then you allocate all the necessary information, the screen width, the height, and then the block number set. So this concludes our training for today on the ZK Biosecurity Part 2. We have touched base on our elevator, visitor, and the patrol module. This brings to conclusion of our training today. All the questions can be sent through on the webinar there, and then if you have additional questions, you can just forward them to the support@ZKTeco.co.za, and then for grover.fang@ZKTeco.com. But you can only send to Grover regarding today's training if it has anything to do with any support or any sales inquiries. Please send your request to support@ZKTeco.co.za or at sales@ZKTeco.co.za. And then that's our technical support line, so you can just call in and ask for our support technicians. They are ready, and then they'll be able to answer all your questions. I'll answer as many questions as I can, as I'll keep the session alive for questions until 11:30. Thank you. Hello, I can see a lot of questions regarding the ZK biosecurity integrated with the attendance, coming attendance motion. We already have the integration. It's just that not launched yet. So hopefully it will be launched next year, early next year. Thank you. Hello, this has come to an end of our session. Please forward all your questions to support@ZKTeco.co.za. And then thank you very much for your attendance. Our next training dates will be published on our website for next year. Thank you very much. Bye.